I recently returned from Singapore using the Vaccinated Travel Lane, and it was quite an adventure, both applying to go and also while there. And so I'm making this video in the hopes that what I learned might be useful for you if you are looking to use the VTL lane in future. So this video is going to try to outline step by step some of the things you're going to need to do in order to apply and be eligible to go to Singapore. The first thing that you'll need to do is make sure that you have a Vaccinated Travel Lane flight. Now this website here is one of the most useful things that you will find, so make sure that you bookmark this URL and carefully and thoroughly read all the information on this page. It is overwhelming, but also really helpful. So to figure out if a flight is VTL, you can see down here under section D, secure tickets for a designated VTL flight, that this will tell you per airline what flights are VTL. If you fail to book yourself onto a VTL flight, you can go through all of the other steps and have all the paperwork you need and still not get into the country. So make sure that you have a VTL flight before anything. Secure that. So that's one thing that's on this site. The other thing you'll need to do is get a VTP. That's a pass basically for you to be able to enter the country. So when you go to the VTP, that's a Vaccinated Travel Pass application portal, you'll end up here and you will create a new VTP application. When you do that, you have to enter your name and your email address. You're going to be sent a code to your email for you to go through this, and every time you submit this application, you're going to have to get a new code. So the reason I say every time is because you'll be approved instantly, but the pass is only good for the date you choose forward 6 days. So when I went, I had a flight that a travel agent was holding for me, and then it got lost in the time period I was trying to sort out all my vaccination details. So I had to rebook, and the new travel date was earlier than the original travel date, and so the first VTP application I had was no longer valid. So I had to submit a second application. It was no sweat at all. You just do the whole thing again, but make sure that you pick a date that is either the date that you're arriving or within 6 days forward of that. The other thing is, when you apply for this, you're going to be asked where you're staying, and there are a list of hotels and other properties in a drop-down menu, also overwhelming. They are there because there are only specific locations that are designated as VTL ready, meaning that when you arrive in Singapore, you have to get a test to make sure that you don't have COVID, and you have to go to your facility, whatever accommodation you've booked, and wait there until you get an email message telling you that you're cleared. And that can take, if you come in on one of the night flights, it can take a good 12 hours. So you have to pick a property that is set up to have people like you there. So make sure that you book one of those hotels. There's the drop-down list on that page, and also on this website in section F is secure self-isolation accommodation. So you can also get an idea of what facilities are set up for that. So you want to do that. The other thing here is, this is a checklist of everything you need to do, so make sure that you do that. You have to get an arrival card. You have to submit that. Now this one is, you can only do it within the 3 days before your departure date. It won't work before then. If you Google SG arrival card, you will find another website that will charge you $99 for you, I think it's Singaporean dollars, for you to fill this out. It's free. If you are on a site asking you to pay money, you're on the wrong site. Make sure that you use this one, which is totally free and looks like this. and you will simply scroll down, and you're probably going to pick the foreign visitors lane here and complete the application. It's quite easy, but again, you do need to be on the right website to get that done. The first email you want to look out for after you arrive will look like this. This is the email address it comes from, and it will tell you ideally that your result is negative, and you will probably have to phone your reception and let them know that you received the email and that you're approved to leave wherever it is that you're staying. So that's the first email. The second email that you want to look out for is about scheduling your ART test. Now, I actually got this email before I got my negative test result, which was really weird and had me in a panic because I thought, did they forget to send me my negative result? But apparently the timing is going to vary immensely when you're going to get your test result. And like I mentioned, if you come in on an evening flight, you can expect it to be a longer time period to get your result than if you come in during the day. So this email is going to tell you that how many tests that you have to have, and the rule changed. When I went, I happened to get there just before the rule changed, so I only needed 2 ART tests. But if you come now, you need more. It will have the specific dates that you need to go. And remember that your day 1 counts as the day that you arrived. So I arrived at 10 p.m. at night, and that counted. So even though there were 2 hours in my day, it counted as day 1. So I was surprised that I needed the first test on day 3 was what I would have called day 2. But just be aware that you carefully look at the dates that you're supposed to go. And then there is a website that will be included where you can click and book your ART tests. Now, what's really confusing about that is there's a ton of locations that you can go to, but when you look at it, you'll have no idea where they are. So you're going to have to go and check with your hotel and ask their help with which facility is closest to where you are. They are, in my experience, kind of like pop-up medical units. And so when you go, you'll be asked to book an appointment, and my experience was that the time that I wanted to go wasn't available. So I booked an afternoon appointment and went in the afternoon, and the unit told me for my next appointment, they said basically, just book an appointment. It's sort of like you're saying you're going to go that day, but that I could actually show up anytime I wanted. So I would suggest that you take if you don't see the time slot you want, book a different time slot at the facility you want, and just show up when you want to get tested. The second time I booked mine, that's what I did. It was no sweat at all. They didn't look at the time. If there's a long line, obviously you have to wait on the line. When I went, there was one person ahead of me each day, so it was no problem at all to just go to the unit. But that's how you book, and they will charge you like some very nominal fee, and then you get the test result. If you have a Singaporean number, then they will text you and they will email you within about an hour your test result. Now, for those of you arriving at the airport and getting that first test, there is, if you don't have a Singapore mobile number already, there is a place like a stand where you can get your Singapore SIM card before going and getting your luggage. And then when you show up for your PCR test at the airport, you'll have a Singaporean number. Now, I did that. I actually forgot to give them the Singapore number. I would say it is, if you want to have that before you go, good idea. Go ahead and get that SIM card. I think it was a huge ripoff. I paid $43, I think, for a month pass that got me 2 gigs a day of data and no international calling. And I'm pretty sure if I had gotten a SIM card outside the airport, that I would have gotten a better deal. So just keep that in mind, depending on how long you're in Singapore and how much data and voice and stuff that you want. There's that trade-off. Now, the other thing is that you're going to have to schedule your tests each day, and that gets a little confusing because you'll schedule your day 1 test or your day 3 or whatever it is. You'll go get it done, and then you'll go back to the website to schedule your next test, and you'll notice it just pulls up the booking that you already made for that day. That's because you have to wait 24 hours you have to wait till the next day to be able to schedule your next test. So that is a bit of an annoyance, so keep that in mind. Finally, you'll need to get the Trace Together app. It looks like that. And you will download it before you go to Singapore, and you basically set it up to a certain point, and then you have to stop. And then when you arrive in Singapore, you complete the setup. You activate it, basically. So the Trace Together app is how you'll check in and check out of locations. So it looks like this, and it will actually have your vaccinated check mark. And on the days that you get a test, it will also have a check mark on the box where it shows that you're approved, basically your test results passed. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to scan into different locations. And one of the things I found complicated was that, so you check in, and then the place that you check in shows that you checked in, and you have to know that you need to check out later. And unlike some other apps I've used, if you forget to check out and you go to the next day, let's say, and you're like, oh no, I forgot to check out, you can't correct the time. So it'll just look like you were there for 24 hours, which I was worried about, because if there's a potential exposure and I wasn't even there, it looks like I was there. So that could be an issue. But of course, if you keep scanning into other places, usually what'll happen is you'll suddenly remember you forgot to check out. And also I would hope somebody's matching up, like, how can she be in 2 places at one time? There's also a history, so it'll show like all the places that you were, and you can check out. So apparently, look, it looks like I forgot to check out of a few places. So so basically, you can, when you're in Singapore and you forgot to check out, you can also in your history go ahead and check out of those locations. So that's it. I hope that this video and blog post were helpful for you. I'm not an expert at this, but I'm just sharing what I learned, and thank you for watching, and I hope that it gives you some reassurance and some ideas of what to expect. And it actually is a lot smoother in person than it's a lot of work to get to Singapore, and it looks really difficult. It's actually not that complicated. It's kind of more annoying that every day you have to book a certain amount of your day to get these tests, when of course you want to go out and see Singapore. But apart from that, it's really not that difficult, and hopefully you have a wonderful, wonderful trip.